Hmm. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
All right. So before we just popped on, everybody, Rick was asking me something. So you were asking me about Ronda Rousey.
yeah, is that a female wrestler in the
Well,
AWA?
she's a mixed martial artist slash professional wrestler.
Okay, the only reason I ask is because when I was watching YouTube earlier, I think it was today, um, there came an ad up because apparently she's got doing a comic on Kickstarter,
Oh,
a
okay.
graphic novel. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's any sort of news on
Now,
that. Or,
right now, of course, she's not necessarily signed to um, any particular company right now. Albeit, she was Ronda Rousey actually was known for her time in the WWE the last like 10 years or so, kind of having two separate stints there. She just finished up her second stint recently, but she comes from the mixed martial arts world. She actually was in UFC for a while.
yeah, because I've got the like I clicked it and I've got the ad here. Apparently, it's launching in 7 days, so maybe in about a week or a week and a half, maybe we'll end up seeing an article about that. It'd be neat.
Well, that might be
Uh,
interesting. Well, anyways, aside from that, how's everything going for you?
Good, and yourself?
All right, I actually was able to get, basically able to, you know, hopefully start getting back on track again here and get everything back, on track the way I want it. So, get myself back, going.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
all right,
It's
so
always nice to get back on track when you get off track a little.
yeah. So, anyways, so before we get started, well, let me just mention this to those who may be in the chat. If you haven't already, if you guys can help us out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. And hey, we got Elk here. Hail Xenu and Xena. All right, so before I talk about what's on tap for tonight, Rick, would you like to do an intro? I think you know the
Yeah,
shtick, right?
well, I'll just do a quick little intro, just saying for those that might be in the chat that don't know who I am, I'm Rick Piper. I do my own comics. I also have my own YouTube channel, which I just put a link for in the chat. So want to go over and check it out, and if you like it, subscribe and watch a whole bunch of my content. You know, get to know who I am and all that, what I do and all that. Usually lately, it's just chill stream on Tuesdays, and that way you can put up my view count and my watch time. So hopefully, maybe you can trigger that algorithm, and I can get more people subscribing, and I can get monetized.
All right, we're all working towards that goal, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anything more you'd like to add, or
No, not that I can think of at this time.
okay? So here's what's on tap then for tonight. We're gonna go over three articles, one from Bounding into Comics and the other two from Bleeding Fool. First article we're gonna look at is G.I. Joe writer Larry Hama recently coming out and talking about how due to some I guess some health issues, medical issues, he may not be over the next few years. He may not be able to continue writing as much. Um, Also, we got a couple articles from Bleeding Fool, as I said, where a father daughter duo is writing a comic about mental illness, and then we also talking about what happens when indie creators don't know what to do about marketing. So, anyways, we have a couple comments here.
I'm saying I'm single now. Two ladies may be watching. Human ladies only. You said after that.
All right.
Well, I've been single for all my time on YouTube. I've been single for quite some time. There seemed like I might have working up to having a girlfriend, but that seems not to be going to be the case.
That kind of fell through, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Anything more? Well, I take it there's nothing more you want or feel the need to say on that regard, right?
Yeah, not here. Maybe if you walk away, if you have to go away from a bit and Elf wants to hear more about it or whatever, I might say,
Well, I think you've
a little
already
bit more.
explained to everybody what was going on there. So,
Yeah,
I
last
think
night,
Elk was here when you did that. So,
like I saw her today, so I might, if Elk wanted to know something about that, I might say something. But not right now. It's
right.
I can do
Well,
that.
with that being said, let's get off some of the dreary stuff and let's get into some. Let's get into some.
Oh, no problem, Elk. No problem. No need to
Right,
be
so,
sorry. I realized you were joking around.
all
And
right. So, anyways, let's get on to the topics at hand that we're going to go over tonight. As I said, the first one, and of course, I'll have the wrestling wrap up and I'll have the wrestling wrap up as well as the This Day in Each History segments towards the end. But with that being all said, let's get into this. And I really, really am annoyed with this, with Bounding in the Comics, how they basically crop that down like that. Even though when I do push it up, it will eventually. So, iconic G.I. Joe comic book creator Larry Hama, who, as I was telling Rick just before the show, has actually been involved with writing G.I. Joe, basically going all the way back to the 80s
yeah,
cartoon.
and that would be because GI Joe even technically existed. I think in the '60s, although he was just action figure dolls. Like
Right. They didn't really have. They didn't really have. Like they didn't really start developing characters for it until the 80s, I believe. But
yeah, it was more like a guy's version of Barbie.
yeah. Reveals health issues will likely leave him, quote, incapable of drawing within the next few years, unquote. Article by Spencer McCauley, published yesterday.
Okay,
All right, so
we're
let's get into this.
yeah, we're beginning with good.
And what?
And Elke is asking, is Hannah like 85? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know if he's 85 years old or not. I just know, I think he is kind of up there in years, but I guess maybe they'll say it in the comments here. But let's just see what they say here. So, in an admittedly heartbreaking reminder of life's fleeting nature, noted GI Joe comic book creator Larry Hama is currently speculating that due to his health issues, he will likely be rendered physically unable to draw sometime, quote unquote, within the next few years.
And he's 75.
Oh, you just looked it up?
Yeah, he was born June 7th, 1949. So he just recently, just over a month ago, had a birthday.
A long-term veteran of the industry, Hama's sequential art career has seen him a range of creative comic book. Again, somebody's editing right there. Comic book roles. Perhaps best known for his work, both writing and occasionally illustrating, the Joe's original Marvel Comics outings. So if you remember back in the 80s, Marvel actually I think Marvel was one of the first companies to actually do the comic adaptations of some of Hasbro's properties. You know,
Yeah,
G.I.
they did.
Joe was one of them. Transformers was the other.
Yeah.
Outings during which time he was responsible for the creation of Snake Eyes. Hama's bibliography also includes stints as the lead writer on Avengers Volume 1, Batman Volume 1, and various Venom titles. The artist on Marvel Premiere and Nth Man, The Ultimate Ninja, and the editor on Peter Porker, The Spectacular Spider-Ham Volume 1.
Oh,
I guess
cool.
that's I guess that was Marvel's answer to DC's Earth C or something like that, or Earth C minus or whatever.
Yeah. Where they made a bunch of animals out of superheroes.
They basically made anthropomorphic animal characters based on the okay. So Earth C was basically the animal copies of the Justice League, and then C minus that's where Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew came into. That was their universe.
Okay, I didn't. I'm not sure whether I ever seen. I know about the Zoo Crew, and that's what I was thinking you were referring to. I'm not sure whether I ever seen any of the anamorphic versions of.
Well, apparently, yeah. So this Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, that was on Earth C minus. Okay, Earth C was a home to just a lot of animals, which were basically like animal versions of the Justice League members.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm saying I gotta Google Spider-Ham when we're done. Yeah, well, I've known about Spider-Ham for quite some time. He was actually in the first of Across the Spider-Verse, with starring Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Although Peter Parker, the regular Peter Parker, was in that as well.
Okay. And he also co-created alongside artist Michael Golden a little character known as Bucky O'Hara.
Bucky O'Hara.
Hama now in his provided the unfortunate life update. Okay, again via a July 9th post made to his personal Facebook page. Quote, I have macular degeneration. In brackets here, a common degenerative eye disease that occurs with age and results in one losing their central vision, unquote. Explained the comic book creator. Quote, I will probably be incapable of drawing within the next few years. So if you want to sketch, better act soon.
Yeah.
Let's see. Quote, although my arthritis may make everything moot before then, he added, quote, I have no ligaments left in my basal thumb joints. It's just bone scrapping against bone there.
Ouch.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I just said ouch to that.
Drawing actually quite painful, but not as painful as signing my signature.
Oh, wow.
In light of this post, Hama would proceed to find himself flooded with requests for his artistic services, prompting him to return to Facebook to clarify the process through which a fan could obtain a commission. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we better get it now then.
Yeah.
Quote. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I'd almost be with him saying that. I'd just give him the money. I'd almost more just want him to give him the money and not get anything. I wouldn't want to put him through the pain. I get wanting to get a drawing, but he says this is painful. Like, why would you do that to him?
Yeah, because well, Rick, you as a Christian, you should know the answer to that. As a Christian, you should know the answer to that very well.
Because they're all a bunch of fools, sadistic.
No, because we're inanely selfish.
Oh yeah.
We're inanely sinful and selfish.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I
And
guess it's a
therefore,
rhetorical.
and only saved by the grace of God.
Yeah, obviously for sure. That's the ultimate answer.
I mean, you should have been able to answer that right off the bat, there, my friend.
Yeah, well, although you said as a Christian I should know, I was thinking you were thinking something a little bit more philosophical or whatever. Although that's sort of philosophical.
Well, it's both. It's if you think about it, it's both from a Christian and philosophical standpoint. If you really think about it, because I mean, whether you look at it from the Christian point of view or from the secular point of view, we are driven by the need to fulfill our own base desires, right?
Yeah.
Whether you want to say that we're inanely sinful and selfish, or whether you want to just say that that's just part of being a human being,
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I would probably get something from him, but I'd probably get it as a print, not something that he has to draw anything, and the signature's probably already on the print. I wouldn't want to put the guy through any more pain. It's like.
Mm-hmm. People also don't necessarily think about that too much either.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Quote, I'm getting bombarded with commission requests, unquote, explained the comic book creator. Quote, I don't do commissions through the mail. I do pencil sketches, but only at cons. There are many comic shops these days that have, in small quotes, facilitators who take customers' comics to cons to have them signed and or graded. If you can't get to a con, ask your local shop if they provide that service. Unquote.
I guess that's not so bad. He's at a con,
Yeah. Met by the subsequent observation from a fan that, quote, I guess nobody listened to the part about how much it hurts. Unquote. Rick, you were just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Hama asserted, quote, drawing is what I do. Yes, it hurts, but that's the price. In brackets, like boxers and ballet dancers. Accept the pain. It comes with the especially with boxing, because you're not just punching the other guy, but the other guy's punching you too. So yeah. It's like pretty painful.
Yeah, I do like how Hammond himself points it out too, because this is Hammond pointing out. Matt, Matt by the subsequent observation. What was that? Met by the subsequent observation of a fan. Can we go back up for a second?
Met by the subsequent observation from a fan.
Oh, yeah. So a fan did say it, and then he said, "It's drawing's what I do. Yes, it hurts, but that's the price." Okay. He's being gracious.
The first half of that line was the met by a subsequent observation was the narrative, and then you get the quote of, I guess nobody listened to the part about how much it hurts.
Yeah, and then
remember, I even stopped and chuckled with you about that, because that's kind of what you were just saying as well, right?
Yeah. And then Hammond answers the guy and saying, "Hey, it's what I do. So I'm all right with it. and that's good. You know.
At current, in addition to his commission work, Hama is preparing to launch a Kickstarter campaign for his new comic, Mounties vs. Werewolves.
Oh, that should sound interesting.
Now, could you imagine a Mountie going up against? Well, no, they said werewolves here. But I was thinking maybe Wolverine or something like that. Even though Wolverine's not a werewolf, but illustrated by IDW's G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero artist Guy Dorian Sr. The series tells the tale of one, quote, David Lawrence, a veteran of the Great War in France. I'm guessing must be set back in the 1920s or something like that, because the Great War was when they say the Great War, they usually mean World War One. And a deputy inspector in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is assigned. That's what for those of you who don't know, that's what RCMP stands for right there.
Yes, I know that, and yeah. I'm sure Elk knows that too.
And I put it out there full phrase just for those who get it. Is assigned to a remote outpost in northern Alberta. Unquote. Quote, the quiet posting he had been expecting turns out to be anything but, unquote, continues the series' official synopsis. Quote, the small ragtag unit he commands is actually a top-secret sub-agency whose mission is to kill werewolves and prevent them from spreading south to prey on larger settlements and population centers.
Oh, this actually sounds pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually like to see it. Maybe
the panel the far right there. I think that's Storm Shadow right there.
Yeah. This is obviously from the G.I. Joe comic and not from his comic.
Right.
But I would definitely like to check out that when it comes when it goes live.
And that apparently is the end of the article right there.
Yeah.
That one went kind of quickly. Let's see now. So, anyway, so we'll move over to
one of the other articles.
Bleeding Fool, because that's where the other two articles are.
This is a Kickstarter that will get me to overcome my cynicism about crowdfunding. Says Elk. Yeah.
Now, the first article from Bounding into Comics, or from Bleeding Fool, rather, here. It's going to be Elk's favorite article writer, Avi Greed.
Yes. Can you write a good article? This is the question. If he doesn't make him look like a complete fool.
All right. So, dad and daughter team up to create comic about mental health. Article by Avi Green, published today, July 17th. There's the father and daughter right there. Ethan and Nami Sachs, photo courtesy of people. Obviously, Ethan's the guy on the left, and Nami's the girl on the right. So, people interviewed Ethan Sachs, a professional comics writer who collaborated with his daughter. Okay, here they call her Naomi. Up here they called her Nami. So, Naomi. Okay, maybe it is Naomi, but
Nami might be a nickname or short for Naomi.
Yeah, that could be true. Well, especially I guess if they're One Piece fans. Daughter Naomi to produce a comic about mental health issues.
And Elk says the RCMP just yesterday sent me a letter saying that there is no evidence I'm a pervert and can care for vulnerable persons. So you had to get a criminal check for a job or a volunteer position. I take it out. I've had a few of those in my life.
So, anyways, on with the article here, and this is coming from the article now. This is not from Avi here. This part's from the
Yeah.
article he's referring to. Even Sachs was sitting in the cafeteria at New York City's Bellevue hospital in March 2019, overwhelmed with guilt and fear. His 15-year-old daughter Naomi was upstairs in the children's psychiatric ward. So 15, so she'd be 20 now. Hospitalized for major depression and suicidal ideation.
Oh wow,
But
that
I think just for those who don't know, I believe suicidal ideation basically is just maybe more the medical term meaning suicidal thoughts. Um,
yeah,
and he was spiraling into self blame. Quote.
yeah. That is definitely not a good. Well, not good for either.
Okay. So, quote, maybe if I had been a better parent, I would have caught this earlier and helped her, unquote, Sachs remembers, thinking he and his wife, Masako, a bank manager. Yeah, now knowing her mother's name, knowing his wife's name, I could see that too. And she does have like Asian, particularly Japanese features right there.
Yeah,
Um, so that I could see that now being the case that Nami might be a nickname. Um, quote, we're completely unmoored, unquote. He says, quote, we thought, where do we go from here, unquote. As he waited for visiting hours to see his daughter, the comic book writer and former daily news journalist pulled out an old reporter's notebook and stared at the blank page. Quote, I wanted to come up with a story that would inspire Naomi to want to live, unquote, says Ethan 51. I guess it's 51 now. Um, he um, scrawled a single sentence in his notebook. Quote, a girl who doesn't know if she wants to live is the only one who can save all life on Earth. Now that does sound like a very interesting premise there. That does sound like a very interesting premise. Over the next few years, the nascent idea became a fully realized labor of love um, for both Ethan and Naomi, now 20. The result, a haunted girl, um, a comic co-written by the father-daughter team with art by Sachs collaborator Marco Lorenzana. It's a supernatural horror tale that follows teen heroine Cleo as she navigates life with a suicide attempt after a suicide attempt and battles a demon apocalypse that only she can prevent. Hmm.
okay. Elf says it's on. It's an Alberta thing. Vulnerable persons check, which discloses even crimes that have been pardoned and can only be demanded by employers caring for vulnerable persons. Yeah, well, I guess it's slightly different. But, I've got a police check about crimes for vulnerable sectors, stuff, and all that too. Uh, for working with kids and stuff like that at my churches, and even for a job in the past too.
Avi says horror shouldn't exist because Avi doesn't like horror. Yeah, I knew you were gonna go there, Elk. Um, I
Yeah,
still
well,
don't think you fully get what he was saying here, but anyways, let's
let's go.
Let
Let's get on with this and see what he
yeah, let's
says
get on
about
with the
this article.
article. A book version of the four-part series, which includes a mental health guide and resources, has just been released. Quote, for Naomi, I hope the experience is empowering, says Ethan, who has authored several Marvel and Star Wars comics. Quote, and if we reach people and help through the book, that's a plus, unquote. A haunted girl, quote, involves the supernatural, but there's also a real life story many kids go through, unquote, says Brett Ween, director of writing and entertainment outreach for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, who consulted on the comic. Quote, feels authentic and positive, unquote. So there's a cover to it right there.
Yeah, I like the cover. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. And you notice how dour she looks there? The
Yeah,
character.
and that's good because she's supposed unfortunately somebody who committed suicide. So somebody who's lost hope. That's what they would think, what they would look something like.
While the subject matter is while the subject matter itself is important, the downside is that they still rely on the horror theme to build the story upon. Um, Seriously, I don't think mental health issues have to rely on horror genre to develop a compelling tale. I wish Sachs good luck with this, but what a sad shame. The horror genre is still prevailing as a wellspring here. All right.
Okay, I get you don't like unfortunately, he's right. I'll just be saying it, here, again, really the sentiment that. But you know what? Maybe he doesn't like horror. I'm not somebody that likes horror, but there are people that like it, so it's fun. And you need some sort of element there for there to be a conflict for her to save the world. So, is she going to become a superhero and save? I guess you could do it a superhero, or like I said, she becomes a superhero and has to save the world from some supervillain, I guess. But maybe that's not going to be quite as compelling as the story that they
Yeah.
told. I don't know.
And now, Rick, I told you I did kind of this. I did read this part before when I was looking
Yeah.
through the article. So I was gonna wait till I read the article itself, the full article itself, before I was gonna comment on it. And basically, Elk, if you're saying that Avi is an idiot just because he doesn't like horror, that's kind of a little narrow-minded on your part. Okay, just because
Well,
somebody has a difference of opinion on a particular thing doesn't make them an idiot. It doesn't make him any more of an idiot for not liking horror than making you an idiot for liking it.
yeah. Well, I
Okay,
could be wrong, and Al can correct me if I am wrong. I don't think he's saying it because Avi doesn't record. I don't think Al would say it because of that. It's just that he's saying. I think he's saying it more because Avi's saying, "Oh, because he doesn't like horror. Horror stuff shouldn't exist." Oh, the horror genre is still prevailing, so the horror genre shouldn't prevail just because he
yeah,
doesn't
but
like.
I think though part of what he's getting at here, what based on this thing, you know, I think I think I can see, at least in this instance, I think I kind of get an idea of Avi's thinking here, because depending upon how, now granted, this story sounds like it could be a very good thing. It could be one of those cases where, okay, somebody who suffers from mental health, who basically on the verge of sending themselves to the next world, as it were, you know and all of a sudden they're in a position where they could, where they thought they had nothing to contribute to society and felt that the best thing to do was to just leave this world and then find out that they're the only ones who can save this world. I think that's a very good that's a very good premise for a story.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
What I think Avi is getting at. One of the things I see, Avi, and again, I had to read more of the article before I was going to say anything about this, but depending upon what the story was about, the whole idea, okay, so horror is kind of like nasty, gritty, dark, and then you throw that in with mental illness, like some people might assume or might get, oh, well, people who are suicidal or people who suffer from mental illness or have mental issues, are going to go out and do dark things, whether they off themselves or decide to off somebody else.
Yeah.
I think part of it here is that, and Rick, as a Christian, I know you probably heard many pastors, many elders talk about this too. The idea is sometimes what you put into your mind and heart.
Put garbage in, get garbage out.
Huh?
Put garbage in, get garbage out. And in a lot of ways, if I get what you're saying, if he had stopped at, you don't have to rely on a horror genre to develop a compelling tale. Sure. But then he goes, I add the sax, a wish, a lot. But it's a sad shame that the horror genre is still prevailing as such a
I think Avi is speaking to the condition of the world we live in right now. Okay, especially here in the States, what's happened in the last few days here, right? Where there's been a lot of talk about how a lot of this vitriol, going back and forth, right? Let me get my statement out here.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to.
Let me get my statement out here, and then you can respond. Okay.
I wasn't trying to respond.
Okay. A lot of this negative vitriol back and forth. Oh, you're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. All this negative vitriol. That negativity is just going to wear on people, right?
Oh, for sure.
And it may drive some of those of weaker mindsets, of weaker mentalities, to do like what that Crooks guy did the other day, or like what somebody else just tried just yesterday at the when we're and when we do all this vitriol, whether it's in person or on social media, and that's kind of a big problem with social media too, is that you're not facing the person, so you don't necessarily see how you're affecting them, and all this vitriol back and forth, all this negative vitriol back and forth. It's gonna fray a lot of nerves, and it probably will cause a few of those people who are mentally a little weaker to snap.
Yeah, for sure. And hello, good night, Spoon. But but I don't think that's what Avi's referring to here. He is reiterating that he doesn't really like
that's
what I get, anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason he doesn't like horror or like what he feels is the overemphasis on horror is because it's another thing that's feeding into all this negativity in the world. That's what I believe. That's what my impression is. I think he believes that because horror is prevalent, it's feeding into the darker parts of the human soul, and therefore bringing out those darker parts into the forefront. Which is not what we want in a society. I don't necessarily believe.
Yeah, that could be, but I think that's a very I was going to say narrow-minded perspective, but that's really the wrong words, because horror as a genre has existed in movies and comics. Comics since almost the dawn of comics. Within 10, 20 years, it's existed since they came into existence. And of course, horror has existed in movies, you know, again, almost since the dawn of movies, too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and again, I think if from his point of view, I think if there was a little bit more of a balance, if horror wasn't quite as prevalent as it is right now, he probably
Yeah,
wouldn't be being as critical of it as he is. I think from his perspective, he thinks there's too much horror out there, and because there is too much horror out there, it's contributing to the darkness that's in our society right now.
yeah, well, that could be. I won't discount that. That's what
Again,
he's trying
I'm
to say.
throwing out theories here. I mean, and
Yeah, but
it
yeah,
doesn't make him an idiot for not liking horror or believing
yeah,
that maybe there
yeah,
shouldn't be much horror. It
yeah.
does not make him an idiot for that.
He
Anybody,
obviously. Sorry.
go ahead, Rick.
I was just saying he obviously has a right not to like horror. I'm not a big horror fan myself. I don't like the blood and guts and all that in movies. I like some some thrillers, suspense, and that's good. And we don't know how much of a horror story this is. Yes, you look at the cover, it looks that way. It says it's super. There's a supernatural element to it with demons and all that. And just because you have demons in it, again, doesn't necessarily mean it's horror too. I think he's
Or
reading.
horror at least in the context that we're probably thinking. It may not be horror in the context we're thinking of, like blood and guts. It may be more what they call psychological horror.
Yeah,
Thriller type stuff.
yeah, and there's a thing too. He might be reading a lot into it just because of the picture, um, and I think just in the fact somebody trying to commit suicide, there is a little bit of a horror element in that itself, depending on how they try and do it, why, and all that. Depending on how much you delve into that, the psyche of that part of it,
Right.
and, you know,
But even as somebody who at least reads more for context and stuff like that, I would say don't even necessarily just focus just simply on the horror aspect. I mean, he may not agree that maybe the horror route, and he has his reasons. I put out a couple of theories why he may feel that way, but there's another aspect here that that everybody here, even here, is not is well. You and I think, are getting it, but I don't know if anybody else is picking it up. Which another aspect to this story here, or probably the bigger aspect than the horror aspect, is the whole idea. Okay, this girl is coming off a suicide attempt, having felt that she doesn't deserve to live and all that, and then finds out, and then she comes to find out she's the only one who can save the world.
yeah,
I mean, coming back from that and then realizing that maybe there is more to your life than just whatever circumstances brought you to the decision that you thought that ending yourself was the right thing to do. There's that and if anything, I would think people should be focusing more on that aspect of the story than really the horror aspect.
yeah. Again, I would agree too. Because we don't know how much of a horror aspect there is. In fact, in the article, I don't think it mentioned anything about horror. Just Avi is reading a lot of the horror stuff into it from some of the elements that are in there, like the supernatural and the demons.
Actually,
You know,
well, a haunted girl, so that the title itself.
yeah, but haunted could. I don't think it means haunted as in ghost. I think it just means she's haunted, not by ghosts or anything, but by her own imagination, psyche. It's an internal haunting,
Actually,
haunted by your own demons, if you will, but not not figurative demons, if you will.
Rick, you were saying you weren't sure if they had actually said it was a horror. I'll read this paragraph again because this confirms that it is, in fact, a horror. Over the next few years, the nascent idea became a fully realized labor of love for both Ethan and Naomi, now 20. The result, A Haunted Girl, a comic co-written by the father-daughter team with art by SAG collaborator Marco Lorenzana, is a supernatural horror tale that
Okay.
follows heroine Cleo as she navigates life after a suicide attempt and battles a demon apocalypse that only she can prevent.
Okay. So
So they
it
did
did
say
say
it was a
horror.
horror.
I missed that. I probably heard it at the time, but I missed it. I didn't remember it. So but again, horror can have very different elements. There's many different versions of horror. You do, of course, you have your slashers, and then you have your more suspense or thriller type
Right.
horrors. It depends on which one it's going for. I doubt it's going to be a slasher type one.
Granted, did I feel that him like putting that last statement where he doesn't care for horror was necessary for this article? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel that putting that in there. But that doesn't necessarily make him an idiot. Just makes him opinionated.
Yeah.
Just like we are opinionated here.
Yeah.
No,
I think he would have been just.
any one of us can come off as an opinionated jerk at any moment in time.
Well, that in itself could make us an idiot, but we can all be idiots at times.
So,
For
so
sure.
anyways,
But I think he would have been best just to leave it. I wish the Sacks good luck with this.
all right. So
I think that would have been more
let me
positive.
get through these comments here, and then we'll
Yeah.
move on to the next story here. So Avi is a narrow-minded idiot because he thinks he doesn't like horror. Okay, that statement doesn't even make sense. Okay, that
Yeah, it
if
doesn't make
anything,
a
I
lot
think
of
your
sense.
grammar there's a little off there, Elk. Avi also thinks tragedy shouldn't exist because he doesn't like tragedy.
Yeah.
Aristotle described tragedy as a central foundational part of Western art 3,000 years ago. Yeah, but you don't. But you don't need to be constantly being. You don't need. You don't need an excess of anything. Okay, whether it's excess of comedy or an excess of tragedy. Okay,
Well, depending
and
on how you want.
anything in excess, and I think what Avi is getting at here is that right now, especially in the state of the world we're in, he believes that maybe there is a bit of an excess of tragedy right now, or of horror, or whatever you want to call it.
I was just going to say with the tragedy part, I think all stories need some tragedy in them to make them a compelling story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it depends. The veracity of the tragedy, of course, can be, you know, vary. How severe it is. It doesn't have to be overly severe tragedy. You know,
Millions of Western artists over 2,000 years have told tragic stories. All right. What? Why are we saying Rick is single?
I don't know why. Well, you said it as a joke.
He probably replying to what Elk said earlier.
Yeah.
The government of Avi forbidding horror comics would not prevent Americans' negativity. It might not completely obliterate it, but it might cut it down quite a bit. And it's not just America's negativity, but it's negativity in general. Because you know as human beings, we are innately sinful creatures. I mean, you can make even the argument that we are innately evil creatures. Okay,
Yeah.
capable of evil.
All kinds of
No,
horror.
right. So you know, let's see. Aristotle's opinion and William Shakespeare's opinion are in no way equal to Avi. Everybody's
I think you
opinion
say.
is
I think.
equal. Everyone's
I think.
opinion is equal. Okay, everyone has an opinion, just like everyone has an asshole, and just like everybody can act like an asshole. You know.
Well, I think he's saying that a little tongue in cheek, and everybody does have opinion, but in some ways, I don't think all opinions are equal because some are more grounded in reality than others.
Okay, I'll rewind. The Bible has plenty of horror. Should no one read Revelations because Avi thinks it's bad? No.
No, for sure.
And I don't think
Or
Avi is
even
making,
Old
and I don't think
Testament.
Avi is making that argument either. I think
Yeah.
you're being a little simplistic here in assuming that that's what I think what it gets down to is I think he thinks there's too much
Yeah.
horror. Horror is being too emphasized here. Is
Yeah.
what he's getting at.
That may be the case, but in the last few articles that we've brought up, he has, shall I say, went a little bit overboard in his. I'm not sure whether
Well, I mean,
thought or whatever.
Rick, let me ask you something here, okay? Let me ask you something here. How many times would it take somebody hitting you over the head with a baseball bat before you got tired of them hitting you over the head with a baseball bat?
Once.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. How many times would it take for somebody to beat you over the head with a baseball bat before you got tired of being hit over the head with a baseball bat?
Once or not. I wouldn't like it at all to begin with, but
yeah, I mean, basically, sometimes you just get to the point where you just get tired, especially when something seems excessive, you just get tired of it, and you just kind of wish people would maybe stop, and people would just maybe tone it down a bit, I'm sure Avi would probably look to tone it down. I don't know if he would actually if he would actually just outright ban it, because I think even he knows better than that. And just so you know, he's a 50-year-old man who was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and moved to Jerusalem. So I believe he might be of Jewish descent too. So that might also color some of his viewpoints as well.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Even if he's of Jewish descent, we don't know what his belief system is either. So he seems like a nice enough guy. I don't know.
All right. Anyways, we still got quite a bit of comments here, so let's try to get. Where is Spoonie? Let's see. Oh, hi, Spoonie. I was watching Top Messages, so I couldn't see you. Hilarious. It edited you out. All right, so let's see now. And then Spoon says, hi, Elk. I'm 37 and a half minutes in the past. Let's see. Avi saying he doesn't like horror is fine. Saying Western art shouldn't include horror horror because he doesn't like it is idiotic. It doesn't make him idiotic. It just means that's his opinion. Okay.
Well, it does make him a little bit of an idiot, but yeah.
No, it doesn't, Rick. That doesn't make you an idiot. That's just an opinion.
It's an opinion. Is it an idiotic opinion?
Okay, so I would. Well, some people might think that that's an idiotic opinion. There are others who may not.
Yeah,
there are people who would say that people who think he's an idiot for thinking that way are idiots themselves.
Yeah, this is true too. And if somebody wants to think I'm an idiot for thinking that, that's their right to too.
Yeah. So
I'm a level 20 and pick and come at me, bro. Okay, I have no idea what that means, but
yeah. Um, I'm sorry to hear about your divorce. Oh, brother. So now we are arguing for the Comic Book Code Authority. No, I'm not arguing for the Comic Book Authority. Okay.
I don't think we were, anyways.
Yeah.
I
Well,
forget what we were
because
saying.
everyone's opinion is not equal. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Well,
Everyone's
they're not.
opinion is.
I agree with them that they're not equal because some our opinions aren't really grounded in reality. Everybody has a right to their opinion, but it doesn't mean it's a smart opinion or a grounded opinion. Thus, in that sense, it might not be equal.
Yeah. So biblical horror is good because Mike likes it, but other horror is too much. No, I'm not saying all horror or other horror is too much, but I think as with anything in excess, anything, anything, anything in excess is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me repeat that the for the guy who thinks that Avi's an idiot there just because he has a difference of opinion. Anything in excess is not a good thing. Let's see. I'm looking forward to finding out what discussion is occurring 37 minutes from now. Let's see. Avi is offering no data, facts, statistics about the amount of horror.
Yeah, because he doesn't know because he hasn't read it either. So none of us have.
Well, he's probably seen at least I mean there are there have
He
been a
might have
few
seen
horror
the
comics,
guy.
but there's also been other comics, okay? But
Yeah.
maybe he has and he just hasn't chosen not to provide that information, you know.
Yeah.
Um Obviously he's talked a lot about horror and his name is Avi Green. I've never heard of a non-Jewish Avi. Well, he according to his profile, he actually lives in Israel, so um and that's according to the profile on this site. Rick, you might want to read this one since
Rick, you might come into better spirits if you start taking care of your Maslow height. Oh, I have
hierarchy.
of needs before tending to the crops of others or waiting for someone to tend your crops. I have no idea what you mean by that. Good night, Spoon.
William Shakespeare's opinion to have on how to write an English play is not equal to. Yes, it is. Um, no, I didn't think cereal is illegal. Um, oh, I think I misheard you. And then, what statistics has Avi used to determine how much horror it? Well, I think he's talked about horror the two of the last three articles he's done. He's mentioned horror, so obviously there's been a couple of horror stories that have come out pretty recently that he's talked about. So you know, but as I said, I think yes, he may not like horror, but I think I think in this case, what he's getting at is more that there may be too much horror out there right now.
Or he believes there is, anyways.
Yeah. So
And again, he has a right to that opinion. Whether he, and I'm not sure whether anybody could say for that whether he's right or wrong. The only
mhm.
person that might be able to say whether he's right or wrong for that is God. I don't think any of us could say that he's right or wrong for that. But then again, somebody who's really into horror would think he's wrong, and their opinion for that would be, I think, just as valid.
Anyways, I'm just going to jump to present time. This is getting confusing. Actually, we're already at the hour mark. We've been arguing about this a good portion of times. I think I'm gonna start to wrap up once we get through all these.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that once we got.
Yeah. What up? What up? Present people. So our more or less horror coming out. Probably yeah, all right. You know something? I'm gonna do something here that I usually don't like to do, but I feel that I have to because we gotta calm this situation down here.
Just gonna.
Well, you'll see in a moment. And I'll explain why later, Rick, why I did that.
Yeah. Good Spoon says, "Dang, I missed the stream by living 37.5 minutes in the past." Well, that's what you get for coming late.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing was, okay. So the article we just read, Good Night Spoon, is
about mental health and
basically
it's a horror comic.
Yeah, a comic book writer. His daughter, basically had a mental health incident a few years ago, and he wanted to write a story to help her deal with it. So what they decided to do in writing this comic called A Haunted Girl was, make the girl coming off of a suicide attempt. Coming off of a suicide attempt. Basically coming off of a suicide attempt. The hero here.
Yeah. Rick, no, I had to time travel because you wouldn't answer me my question. And what question was that? I think I answered your question. You probably missed it because you time traveled. And he says that's a good title. A Haunted Girl. So we are caught up with the chat.
All right. Yeah, and as I said, maybe I'll save the other story for tomorrow, depending upon whether or not Chris does eventually put up another ICS. But
well, the one thing that we gotta love about Avi, no matter what his opinions may be, whether we agree or disagree with them, he always gets us talking.
Yeah, but the thing is, just because we don't agree, just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean you need to start calling them an idiot. Okay, it's like personally attacking somebody for having a differing opinion is wrong on any level.
Yeah, well, it depends.
And not a very granted, I know not all of us are Christians, but it's not a very Christian thing to do either.
There's lots of people that disagree with me, and because depending what their opinion is, why we're being disagreeing. Yeah, I think they're an idiot. Do I think less of them as a person? No. I just think they're an idiot because of whatever belief they're holding. And that may be true or not true. And I guess what? I know a lot of people think the same way for me because I disagree with them. They think I'm an idiot. And you know what? That's all right because it's part of disagreeing.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead. As I said, I'm going to go ahead and gonna do the rest and wrap up real quick, and then
No, she didn't offer herself. She tried to offer herself, and then she finds out she has to save the world.
Yeah. So with that, I'm gonna do the rest and wrap up real quick, then we'll get into so on tonight's so first let me go back to last night's power NWA Power episode and talk about the results from last night's NWA Power. So first off, the King Bees retained the NWA Women's World Tag Team titles over Tiffany Nieves and Reika Tehaka. EC3 retained the NWA World Heavyweight Championship over Sam Adonis. And the Southern Six defeated the Immortals in the Crockett Cup 2024 finals. So there we go with that. And now going on to tonight's let's see, going on
this
to
day in each history.
Well, going on to tonight's Dynamite. Talk about what was on tap for tonight's Dynamite. I'll probably talk about the results of that tomorrow. So on tonight's Dynamite, you had Will Ospreay defending the AEW International title against MJF. Mercedes Moné defending the TBS title against Nyla Rose. And a non-title match, Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada taking on AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland. So, a battle of champions there. So with that, now we'll with today being Wednesday, July 16th or 17th rather, 2024. Let's take a look back at this day in each history.
And to answer you, good night, Spoon. You say you're confused about the premise. The premise is it's supposed to be a supernatural horror about a girl who attempts suicide, doesn't succeed, obviously, and then somehow becomes finds out that she has to save the world and becomes a superheroine, and I guess does so, and I guess ends up wanting to live instead of committing suicide. I don't know exactly all the details, but I think that's the basic premise. And she has to face off against a demonic horde of some sort.
All right. So anyway, so let's see, 1999.
And what's your confession? Good night, man.
1994 and 2019. All right. So with all that being said, let's take a look back at this day in each history. So today is, as I said, July 17th, 2024. First off, I'd like to wish a happy 90th birthday. A happy 90th birthday to American animator Willie Ito, who throughout his let's see, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that is 5-decade career in the world of animation. He's worked for Walt Disney Animation Studios, Warner Brothers, and Hanna-Barbera Productions. So, and he's worked as an animator, as a character designer, basically starting in the 50s and going all the way up to like 91. So, happy 90th birthday to Willie Ito, who was also, according to this, was born to Japanese immigrant parents. So there you go.
And apparently, Goodnight Spoon thinks that is the plot to Constantine, starring Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, so
I don't think Constantine tried to commit suicide, though, but I don't remember that. Oh, wait a minute.
All right. So now moving ahead to 1994 on this date, 30 years ago today. On this date, 30 years ago today, WCW held its Bash at the Beach event from the Orlando Arena in Orlando, Florida. The main event saw Hulk Hogan defeat Ric Flair for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The team known as Pretty Wonderful, Pretty Paul Roma and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, defeating Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan for the WCW World Tag Team titles. Steve Austin retaining the WCW United States title over Ricky Steamboat. Bunkhouse Buck and Terry Funk defeating Arn Anderson and Dustin Rhodes after Arn turned on Dustin. Lord Steven Regal, who of course everybody now knows as William Regal, retained the television title over Johnny B. Bad. So that's it from 1994. Now moving ahead to 1999. On this date in 1999, as soon as I bring that up. On this date in 1999, let's see. On this date in 1999, the following movies came out in Japan: Studio Ghibli's My Neighbors, the Yamadas, and OLM's Pokemon the Movie 2000, with, of course, Pikachu's Rescue Adventures part of that. So those three movies, those three movies released in Japan on this date 25 years ago, back in 1999.
Cool. Good night, says, I may have been fabricating responses to you 37.5 minutes in the past to get you questioning what I was responding to and what you said. You think? And then that's why he's going to hell. It's a massive plot point. He commits seppuku, sees hell, and spends the rest of his life fighting for God to save him. Okay, it's been a while since I've seen that Constantine movie. I didn't think that was part of it, but I'll take your word for it. Good next one.
Yeah.
Because Constantine, as I know, has never been trying to fight for God in the comics, anyways.
Not well, and I understand. I think Constantine was a Christian. I think there was
in the comics. I don't think so.
I'm okay. I must be. I'm thinking of the ruler Constantine. Okay. You're talking about John Constantine, right?
Yeah, from DC Comics.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking. I guess I'm thinking of the. Yeah, that's right. Because he was a sorcerer.
Yeah.
So, anyways, now getting down to the final piece of this day in each history. On this day in each history, 5 years ago today, the 50th issue of the Volume 8 of Aquaman went on sale on this date. Back in 2019. The story was a call written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, the very same infamous Kelly Sue DeConnick, who said, "If you don't like my politics, don't buy my book." Penciled by Robson Roca and Eduardo Parasica. Inked by Daniel Henriques and Julio Ferrara, lettered by Clayton Cowles, and colored by Sonny Go. So
unfortunately, that she responded the wrong way. It's like I don't care if you like my politics. Just buy my book. It's good, although it might be bad. I don't know. Depends on the book, I guess.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's see. He goes to hell multiple times in the movie. That's how he knows Rochelle's twin
Yeah.
sister. All right.
I saw that movie all of I think once, Good Night Spoon, and I wasn't impressed with it at the time. I knew it was based on a comic book, but I didn't even realize it was based on something done by DC. Although it wasn't DC at, oh, it was DC, but not. It was one of their imprints,
Yeah.
Vertigo, I
So,
believe.
so with that, before we head, of course, Rick, before we wrap up here, did you want to do an outro?
Yeah, I'll just put my link in the chat, and for those that might happen to be listening later, especially if you got this far, go check out my channel. Um, I've got a whole bunch of content on there. Hopefully, in the next month or so, I'll be putting up some more content. And on my other channel, Pied Piper Hamilton, hopefully tomorrow I will be putting up a new snack video, so check that out. So, and thanks. Just go watch everything too. Get things running on there. Get my time up, and like and share it out because I want more view and more sub count. I want to get up to that 1,000. I want to get my top hours watched again.
All right. So, that was the devil in the film that saves John in the end. He was going to heaven in the end, and Satan saved his life to give him a chance to screw up again and be doomed to hell again. All right. So, anyways, with that, so we'll be back here with more Neat News tomorrow. Depending upon whether or not, of course, Chris puts up an ICS article or not, we might be doing that, and not, we'll be doing the story. We'll probably be starting off with the story I didn't get to tonight because of kind of the extended debate we were having about Avi. So with that, I thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.